that was too big for our house. I think, Chris, you had to deal with that in the last few days, right? Well, the lamb is too big for the house. See him later. So if the house is too little for the lamb, meaning not enough to go around, let him and his neighbor next to his bayit take according to the number of their beings, every man according to his needs. You shall make your count for the lamb. Whatever need you may have, you are to grasp these instructions to discover your Passover redemption. There are to be no excuses when it comes to leaving out lamb for you in your house. When you hear the good news, you must respond. Whether your circumstances are too little for Yahuwah to care about, you think the lamb is too small for you, or you think the lamb is too busy and too big, or any other wrong perception you may have. As an Israelite, you are to make the lamb personally count for you in your escape from sin and bondage. Verse 5. Shemot 12:5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Someone asked me just the other day, can I have a lady lamb?
What?
As opposed to Lady Gaga. Can I have a lady lamb? Of course, the answer is niet. You shall take it from the sheep or from the goats. Yeshua was not only a male without blemish, he was Miriam's what? Firstborn Bachor male. As seen here, Yeshua being a lamb who is first for the first year. That means firstborn. Verse 6. You shall keep the lamb from the 10th to the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it between the evenings. Bein ha'arbaim. 4 days of inspection from the 10th of this month till the 14th of this month. You with me, Willie? Yeah. While the lamb is a personal salvation experience, it does apply to all believers and all Israelites, whether from Judah or Ephraim, who must eat the Passover personally for their redemption and corporately for national identification, as Yahuwah's chosen race. The terms between the evening, or bein ha'arbaim, means around dusk, just prior to sunset, at 3 p.m. when the ancient lambs were killed in the temple. Someone said to me that sunrise next Yom Shishi is 6:43, and 3 p.m. or that hour is 3, what was that? 3...
The sunrise is 6:56, and the
3:56. The ninth hour of the day, 3:56. So notice, we start eating at 3, the lamb is killed at 3:56. So by the time we eat next week at around 5, we'll be fine. It'll be past the hour when the lambs were killed. Amen? That's why we start at 3 in the afternoon. We don't just start like we would normally at dinner time at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. We start before the lamb is killed. By the time we eat, the ancient lambs of the temple had been slaughtered, and Yeshua had been slaughtered. Verse 7. They shall take of the dam and strike it on the 2 side posts and on the upper doorposts of their batim, in which they shall eat it. The blood of the door symbolizes the blood Yahuwah places on the doorposts of our hearts when we follow the instructions regarding how to find, choose, and embrace his lamb. Find, choose, and embrace his lamb. Now, every year we go through this. You guys had a hard time finding the lamb, yeah? Same with the world. The whole concept is played out. It's a pain in the tuchus. This lamb is too big, this lamb is too small. What about this one? Can it be a female? So it's not easy for people to find the true lamb. Because of what? Religion. Right? There's a lot of lambs out there, but they're not the Paschal lamb. Yes?
Yes.
Or there are a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing. Yeah? So finding the right one takes some concentrated effort. As Nazarene Israelites, we may not want to hear this, but I know Yeshua was crucified on a cross. Now listen carefully. Those of you coming from the steak background. Okay, and I'm not talking about a sirloin. I'm not talking about prime rib. Well, God would never have his son killed on a cross. Really? Brother, don't you know the Greek word is sturios, shmurios, and whatever? Staros, and it means stake. It doesn't mean cross. Well, because I believe Israel's Passover gospel, I know that it was a cross. It had two beams, not one, two beams. How do I know? A, history. But we can't rely on history, because who wrote the history? The Romans, primarily. Here's how I know. You ready? You may not want to hear this, but here it is. When the blood drips on the paschal doorway from the upper beam, and the blood is placed on both the left and the right doorpost, it gives you the exact symbol of the tree of execution. The blood drips from the beam. The blood was put on the beam. It was also put on the doorposts. That shows you the blood of Yeshua's two hands, as well as a crown of thorns. It could not have been a stake, because both his hands had to bleed openly and publicly, and his hand had to be stretched out, reaching out for his kehillah, his kahal, and the crown of thorns. Here we see that it was the form of a two-beamed, not a one-beam execution stake. Sorry, you're wrong. Verse 8, and they shall eat the flesh in that night, roasted with fire and matzah and with bitter herbs. Again, this message, Israel's Passover gospel. Again, this message, Israel's Passover gospel. Now, I know you tuned in for answers. I know you tuned in for simple things. I know you tuned in to get rid of religion and confusion and to get things straightened out. Well, here is what you need, you and I need, to have the Pesach celebration. Number one, Bidikat Chametz. What is Bidikat Chametz? Get rid of all the garbage in your heart that 1 Corinthians 6 tells you is in your heart. Well, it's not there. You don't know it's there. 1 Corinthians 6 knows it's there. Read the chapter, meditate on the chapter, and come ready, Yom Shishi, with all those things out of your heart and removed and repented from. Less emphasis on the crumbs and more emphasis on the beam that is in your heart and in your mind. And your eyes. I'm talking to somebody.
Yes. Amen.
So, number one is the lamb eaten that night. Look at verse 8. The lamb eaten that night. Roasted with fire. Number two, matzah, unleavened bread. Yep. Number three, maror. So how do we get biblical, Brother Benjamin? What list do we go by to prepare? None. There is no list in Torah. The list is in the Brit Chadasha. And that is the list of the chametz that is in your heart, which is the simplicity. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. For my yoke is kal, and my burden is kal, and that's why you are my kala. It's an easy thing to be married to me, says Yeshua.
Amen.
If you're staying up till 4 in the morning, wondering how you're going to get clean the house, it is religion that you have in your heart, not Yeshua.
Amen.
Amen. Sorry. I love you. Tell you the truth. Sorry. I'm not going to let any person, any man, put me under a religious guilt trip. Sorry.
Amen. Amen.
So what do we need this year, as we need every year, seeing that we're an Israelite home, Wilbur? Number one, Seha Elohim, roasted with fire. Number two, matzah, unleavened bread. And number three, maror. Israelites were supposed to eat the flesh of the lamb. As Yeshua reminds us in Yochanan 6, 52 to 58. The eating of the flesh of the lamb is symbolic and can be done annually at Pesach, not every Sunday, not once a month. The fire is symbolic of the purification of our sins by the work of the lamb. You like that? The fire is symbolic of the purification of our sins by the lamb's work. The maror is to remind us of Yeshua's bitter agony in his obedience to perform Yahuwah's will. Amen. Obeying Yahuwah will not always be an easy, trial-free experience. Get that set in your mind. Obeying Yahuwah will never, not always and never, be an easy, trial-free experience. The kingdom doesn't operate like some of the stuff we get in the mail. Free trial.
Right.
So the deal